Chapter 5. The Homeric Hymn to Demeter. Let me tell you the story of Demeter, the holy goddess whose hair grew in rich plaits as only a goddess's does, and of her daughter whom Hades seized. Zeus, the thunder god, gave her to him. This is how it happened. She was playing far from Demeter, lady of the harvest who reaps with a golden sickle, gathering flowers with the daughters of ocean, roses and crocus and beautiful violets, iris, hyacinths, and the narcissus. Earth brought forth the narcissus as a wonderful lure for the blossoming girl, according to Zeus's plan to please Hades, who receives all. It was an object of awe for all to see, both the immortal gods and mortal men. And from its root grew 100 heads, smelling a smell so sweet that the whole broad sky above and all the earth laughed, and the salty swell of the sea. The girl was amazed and stretched out both her hands to take the marvelous bauble. But as she did, the earth gaped open, and the Lord Hades, whom we all will meet, burst forth with his immortal horses in the Nysian plain. Lord Hades, the son of Cronus, who is called by many names. Begging for pity and fighting him off, she was dragged into his golden chariot. She screamed the shrill cry of a Maenad, calling Father Zeus, Zeus the highest and the best. But none of the immortals, nor any mortal man heard her voice, not even the olive trees that produce splendid fruit. Only Hecate, who wears a delicate veil, Perseus' kindly daughter, heard her from her cave. And Lord Helios, the brilliant son of Hyperion, he too heard the girl's cries to her father. But the son of Cronus was sitting far from the gods in his temple, a temple thronged with worshippers. And as he received sacrifice from mortal men, she was being carried off at his suggestion by his own brother, the one who rules over many and receives all, the son of Cronus, who has many names, Hades, and his immortal horses. As long as the maiden goddesses could still see the earth and the starry skies, the sea that ebbs and the rays of the sun, she could still hope to join her beloved mother and the race of the gods who will always be. And that hope consoled her in her misery. The peaks of the mountains resounded with her immortal voice, and the depths of the sea, until at last her mother heard her cries. So bitter was the pain that seized the goddess's heart, that she tore from her head a gossamer veil, the veil that covered her divine hair, and threw over her shoulders a great black cloak, the mantle of death. She flew swift as a bird over land and sea, seeking her daughter, but no one wanted to tell her the truth, no god nor any mortal man. Nor did any bird come to her, and we all know birds bear true messages. So for 9 days, holy Dio roamed the earth, carrying blazing torches in her hands, and so great was her grief that she refused the taste of ambrosia and sweet nectar and shunned the bath. But when the dawn arrived bearing light for the 10th day, Hecate met her, holding a flame in her hand and bringing her a message. She told her this tale. Great Demeter, goddess who brings in the seasons and gives splendid gifts, who of the heavenly gods or mortal men took Persephone and has broken your heart. I have come to you because I heard a cry, but I did not see with my own eyes who took her. Here is all I know. So said Hecate. But the daughter of Rhea, Demeter, whose hair grew in rich plaits as only a goddess's does, did not answer her with words. Instead, she swiftly flew with her, carrying blazing torches in her hands. They sped straight to Helios, the sun, watchman of the gods and of men, and standing in front of his horses, Demeter, goddess among goddesses, said, Helios, Since we both are gods, you must help me, if ever in word or deed I warmed your heart and soul. I bore a daughter, a beautiful child with beautiful face, whose cries I heard through the uncharted skies, the cries of a captive, although I did not see anything with my own eyes. But you, because you see everything beneath with your divine rays, everything on land and sea, you must tell me the truth. Did you see my child anywhere? Who has taken her from me against her will? Was it a god or some mortal man? She said that, and the son of Hyperion answered her by saying, Lady Demeter, daughter of Rhea, whose hair grows in rich plaits as only a goddess's does, you will know the truth, since I stand in awe of you and pity you for how you suffer over the loss of your child. Zeus alone of the immortals is to blame, for he gave her to Hades, his own brother, to have for his wife. Seizing her, he led her to the sunless west, and her screams were shrill as a Maenad's. But, goddess, cease your great lament. You need not have such wrath. Adonis, the ruler of many, is your own brother and is not an unfitting husband among the immortals for your daughter. As for honor, he has his third of the world that he received when the realms were first apportioned, and is the lord over those he received and with whom he dwells. When he had said this, he roused his horses, and at his bidding they bore the swift chariot easily through the air like long-winged birds. Hearing him, Demeter's grief became anguish, and her heart swelled with wrath. Angered with Zeus, the storm-black son of Cronus, she stayed away from the assembly of the gods and lofty Olympus, and went in disguise for a long time to dwell with mortal men. No man who saw her knew her, nor did any of the women who at the time wore their belts low over their hips, until she arrived at the house of the wise man Celeus, who was at that time the lord of Eleusis, where incense is always burning. She sat broken-hearted near the road at the Virgin's Well, where the women of the town drew water, and where a dense olive tree grew, giving shade. Sitting there, she looked like a woman long since a crone, who can bear no children nor enjoy the gifts of Aphrodite. Such women are nurses for the children of kings, who administer justice, and they work as housekeepers throughout their endless rooms. The daughters of Celeus, son of Eleusis, saw her as they were bringing bronze jars of water to their father's house. There were 4 daughters, whose flowering beauty was such beauty as goddesses have: Callidice and Classidice, lovely Demo and Callitho, who was the eldest of them all. They did not recognize the woman as Demeter, however, since it is always difficult for the gods to be seen by mortals. But, standing near her, they said, "Who are you, old woman? Why do you stay outside the town instead of approaching the city? There, in the shadowy halls, there are women as old as you, and younger ones as well, who will welcome you in word and deed." That's what they said, and Lady Demeter answered them, "Dear children, bless you, whoever you are, you splendid girls. I shall tell you, for it would not be unseemly in speaking to girls such as you to tell the truth. My name is Dos, for that is the one my dear mother gave me. Now I have come from Crete upon the broad back of the sea, although I did not want to. Men, pirates they were, took me away by force. Later they put their swift ship in at Thoricus. There a crowd of women came down to the sea and prepared a meal for us by the stern cables of our ship. But I had no desire for the pleasure of food. In secret, stealing away through the dark land, I fled my vile captors, so they might not sell me and have enjoyment of my price. Thus I wandered about, and now have come here, although I don't know just where I am nor who these people are who live here. But may all the gods on Olympus give you good husbands, and may they grant that you bear as many children as you wish. Pity me, girls, Lacuna, and tell me, dear children, to whose house I should go to find proper work, doing the sort of tasks old women do, to nurse a newborn child, holding him in my arms. I could also keep the house and make the Lord's bed, the bed that lies deep within the well-built chambers, and I could teach the women their work. So the goddess spoke, and the unwedded virgin Callidice answered her, Callidice, the best-looking of the daughters of Celeus. Old mother, poor mortals must endure what the gods dole out because they are much our betters. But let me explain it to you clearly and tell you the names of the men who are important, the ones honored in our town and who rule our people and guard the citadel that sits like a crown upon our city, the ones who counsel us and keep our peace. There is Triptolemus the wise, and Dioclus and Polyxenus, irreproachable Eumolpus and Dolichus, and our own valorous father. And all of them have wives who keep their houses. And none of them, on first seeing you, would dishonor your person and send you away. Rather, they will welcome you because you are like some god. If you wish, stay here, and we will go to our father's house to tell Metanira, our mother Metanira, who wears her belt low over her hips. We will tell her everything from start to finish. And we will see if she wants you to come to our house rather than go seek some other. She has borne a son late in her life and is nursing him in her well-built chamber, a child most prayed for by us all. If you nurse and raise him and he reaches young manhood, then all women, when they see you, will envy you. So many will be the gifts she will pay you for rearing him. She said that, and the goddess shook her head in assent. The maidens then filled their shining vessels with water and carried them home rejoicing. Quickly they arrived at their father's great mansion, and quickly they told their mother what they had seen and heard. And she bade them go quickly to call the old woman and offer her a handsome wage. As deer or young heifers frolic in the meadows, sating themselves with the new shoots of springtime, thus the maidens, as they held the folds of their gossamer robes, rushed along the grooves of the wagon trail, their hair tossing about their shoulders like crocus blossoms, saffron and gold. They found the glorious goddess near the road, just where they had left her. They led her to their father's house, and she walked behind them with a heavy heart, draped from head to foot, and around the delicate feet of the goddess her dark robe fluttered. Soon they arrived at the house of Celeus, whom God favors, and they went through the corridors until they reached their mother, the lady Metanira. She was sitting by a pillar and was holding her new offspring, her son, on her lap. The girls ran to their mother's side. Then Demeter stepped to the threshold, her head grazing the roof beam, and the doorway was filled with her divine aura. Awe and reverence seized the mother, and she grew pale from fear. She rose and begged the goddess to be seated on her own chair, but Demeter, the goddess who brings forth the seasons and gives us splendid gifts, did not choose to be seated on the glittering chair. Rather, she stood in silence with her beautiful eyes cast down until the scheming Iambe gave her a stool and threw a gleaming ram's fleece over it. Sitting there, she drew her veil across her face and for a long time sat grieving, speechless, as she sat upon the stool. Nor did she say or do a thing. She just sat, mirthless, with a taste for neither food nor drink, wasting away because of her desire for her daughter. Thus she remained until the scheming Iambe amused her with jokes and made the holy lady smile, then laugh, softening her heart. Iambe, who in later times pleased her at her rites of mystery. Metanira offered her a cup filled with wine as sweet as honey, but she refused it, telling her the red wine would be a sacrilege. She asked instead for barley and water to drink, mixed with tender leaves of glecon. Metanira made the potion and gave it to the goddess as she had asked, and great Dio received the potion as the precedent for the mystery. Lacuna of 22 to 26 lines. Metanira, whose robe hung in thick folds about her hips, said to her, "Greetings, woman. I do not think you are of low parentage, since modesty distinguishes your looks, and grace, as if you were descended from a line of kings who administer justice. But we poor miserable mortals must suffer what the gods dole out, and it seems a yoke of misfortune encircles your neck. Now, since you have come here, what's mine shall also be yours. Nurse this child of mine. The gods granted him to me late in life when I had lost all hope of bearing him, and I prayed for him often. If you nurse him, and he reaches young manhood, then all women, when they see you, will envy you. So many will be the gifts I shall pay you for raising him." Demeter, the goddess who wears a splendid crown, then answered her, "Greetings to you, woman. May the gods bless you with all that is good. I shall gently rear your child, as you have bidden me. Have no fear for his safety, for he'll suckle the milk from no wicked nurse, nor risk incantations that possess a babe, nor will he taste of witch's root, for I know the powerful great herbs that are gathered and the talisman plant that wards off possession." So saying, she lifted him in her immortal hands and held him to her fragrant breast, and his mother rested content. Thus Demeter nursed the handsome son of wise Celeus, the son of whom Metanira bore, Metanira whose robe hung in thick folds about her hips. The child flourished and grew like a god, for he fed not on mother's milk, but upon ambrosia, the food of gods with which Demeter anointed him, anointed as if born a god himself. And she inspired him with her breath sweetly as she rocked him in her lap, and at night she would bury him in the powers of the fire upon the hearth. But his parents knew none of this, and to them he was like a miracle, a kind of prodigy, somehow divine. The goddess would have made him ageless and immortal had it not been for the folly of Metanira, his own mother. One night, watching from the sweet-smelling chamber, she spied upon the goddess at her magic, and, deranged by what she saw, shrieked and beat her thighs in terror for her child. Horror-stricken, she left forth this torrent of words. "That woman, a guest in my house, dear Demophoon, she is burying you in a great fire, and she leaves it to me to mourn and bear the pain of grief?" So she wailed in anguish, and the goddess, who is a goddess among goddesses, heard her. Enraged with her folly, Demeter, whose crown is splendid, grabbed the child from the fire and threw him to the ground, the son Metanira had borne, the one for whom she had lost all hope. And so furious was her heart that she said to Metanira, "All men are fools. They lack the sense to foresee their fate as it comes upon them, good or ill, whatever it be. You, because your head is witless, it is you who have caused this irreversible mistake. Let the oath of the gods be known, the oath that is sworn by the unassuaged, deathless water of the river Styx. I would have made this son ageless for all of time, and I would have granted him undying honor, but now he can never escape the demons that bring his death. Yet he has rested on my lap and slept in my arms, and for that he will always have undying honor. In remembrance of him, all in due course as the season returns, young Eleusinians will always join together in contest and battle again and again. I am Demeter, the one supreme in honor, for I am the source of life and joy both for mortals and immortals. This is what you must do. Have all your people build me a temple with an altar before it, beside the fortress of the high city that looms above Calicoron well. And I myself shall institute my rites so that you may perform them and so conciliate my wrath." As she said that, the goddess was transformed, as if a wind had blown off her old age and left but her glorious beauty. Her robes exhaled sweet perfumes, her skin radiated the aura of the immortals, and her golden hair covered her shoulders. The palace was filled with a brilliance such as the brilliance lightning gives. Then she turned and walked out of the hall. When she had gone, Demeter stood trembling and for a long time remained speechless, nor did she remember to pick up her beloved child from the floor. But his sisters heard his pitiful cries and rushed from their beds that were strewn with rich coverings. Then one of them picked up the child and laid him on her lap. One rekindled the fire, while another raised up her mother and hurried her out of the fragrant room upon her delicate feet. Next, they bathed the trembling child, fondling him, hoping to calm him after what had just happened. But he could not be assuaged. No matter how well they nursed him, they could not compare with Demeter. All night long they propitiated the glorious goddess as they trembled in fear. And when dawn appeared, they told the whole truth to powerful Celius, as the goddess had commanded them, Demeter, whose crown is splendid. Then Celius called his many subjects to an assembly and commanded them to build an opulent temple for Demeter, whose hair grew in rich plaits as only a goddess's does. And he told them to build an altar on the rising hill. And as soon as they heard his voice, they obeyed him and built the temple as he had bid them. And the temple grew under her help. When they finished the temple and had stopped working, they went home, each to his own house. But golden-haired Demeter remained there, sitting apart from all the blessed gods, wasting away with longing for her daughter, Persephone, whose robe hung in thick folds about her hips. Then she made a deadly year for mankind, withering the soil that is so nourishing, and earth would not send up seeds because Demeter, the goddess who wears a splendid crown, kept them hidden. In vain the oxen pulled the curved plowshare through the fields, and much white barley fell to the earth where it was wasted. And now she would have destroyed the whole race of mortal men by famine and robbed the gods of their honors and sacrifices, the gods who have Olympus for their home, had not Zeus perceived this and pondered it in his heart. First, he sent Iris, who flies on wings of gold, to call upon Demeter, whose hair grew in rich plaits as only a goddess's does, and whose face glows with beauty. That was his decision, and Iris obeyed Zeus, the storm-black son of Cronus. Swiftly she cut through the sky and arrived at the city of Eleusis, where incense perfumes the air. She found Demeter in her temple, wearing the dark robes of a mourner, and she spoke this flutter of words. "Demeter, Father Zeus calls you to come rejoin the undying race of the gods who will always be. Come now, don't let my message from Zeus go unheeded." That's what she said, imploring her. But Demeter's mind could not be changed. Then Father Zeus sent out all the blessed gods, and one by one they went to her and called upon her and gave her many splendid gifts and let her choose as much honor as she might want among the immortals. But no one could persuade her to change her mind, since she was so angered, and she stubbornly ignored their pleas. She said she would never again set foot on fragrant Olympus or let the earth bear fruit unless she saw her beautiful daughter with her own eyes. Finally, Zeus heard this, Zeus the thunder god, and he sent Hermes, who carries a golden wand, into Erebus. Hermes, who they call the Argus killer because he slew that 100-eyed monster. And now Zeus sent him that he might exhort Hades with soft words to let him lead holy Persephone out of the sunless west into the light. Then her mother would see her with her own eyes, and seeing her, change her temper. So, leaving the seat of Olympus, Hermes obeyed and rushed through the hollows of the earth. He found the Lord of the Dead seated in his house on a couch with his awesome wife, but it was not her will that kept her seated there, since all she could will was her mother. But her mother was far away, thinking over what the gods had done. Standing nearby, the mighty slayer of Argus addressed him. Lord of Death, you, Hades, whose hair is purple, Father Zeus commanded me to lead glorious Persephone out of Erebus back to us gods, so that her mother, when she sees her with her own eyes, will stop her wrath and her horrible anger against the immortals, because she is planning a great act of vengeance. She is going to destroy the feeble race of mortals who dwell on the earth. This will she do by keeping the seeds hidden underground, and so will she cause the honors that are paid to the gods to perish. She has a furious wrath and won't mingle with the gods. Instead, she sits apart from us in her fragrant temple, which is scented with incense, and she holds as her domain now the rocky citadel of Eleusis. He said that, and the Lord of the Dead, Aidoneus, smiled and raised his eyebrows, nor did he disobey the command of Zeus the king. Hurrying, he gave these commands to Persephone, the queen of miracles. Go, Persephone, to your mother, the lady who wears deep purple robes, and have a kindly spirit in your breast, and be not so despondent. I will not make so bad a husband for you amongst the immortals. After all, I am Zeus's brother. When you are there in his realm, you will rule over all the plants that grow and all moving creatures. Yours will be the greatest honor amongst all immortals, and anyone who fails to make sacrifices to you and does not perform your rites or forgets to offer you appropriate gifts will learn the consequences. He said that, and Persephone rejoiced and quickly jumped up from her throne in glee. But he himself gave her in secret a sweet pomegranate seed to eat, so that she might not remain forever with her mother, the awesome Demeter, whose robe is a deep purple. Then Aidoneus, who rules over many, harnessed his immortal horses to a golden chariot. Persephone got into the chariot, and beside her sat the mighty slayer of Argus, Hermes, who held the reins and a whip in his hands. And they sped through the hall with horses eager to fly. Quickly they made the long journey back, and neither sea nor the waters of the rivers could hinder the flight of such immortal horses. No, nor even the grassy valleys nor the mountain tops, but always onwards did they cut through the air over the very mountain tops like a ship through the deep ocean. And then Hermes stopped them where Demeter was waiting in front of her temple, perfumed with incense. And when she saw her daughter, she ran to her as a Maenad racing through a mountain wood runs. 387 to 405, badly mutilated, restoration uncertain. And Persephone, for her part, when she saw her mother's beautiful eyes, leapt from the chariot and fell on her knees, covering her mother with embraces. But while Demeter still was caressing her child and holding her in her arms, she thought with horror, a trap. And trembling with her fear, she stopped fondling her beloved daughter and spoke these words. My child, when you were below the earth, did you eat any food? Tell me the truth and don't hide anything from me, so that we both may know. Because if you didn't accept his hospitality, you can flee from the halls of that loathsome Hades and dwell with me and your father, the storm-black son of Cronus, where you will be honored by all the immortals. But if you did eat anything, you will have to make the journey back again to the depths of the earth and live with Hades for a third part of the seasons of the year and stay here with me and the other immortals for only 2 of the 3. When the earth abounds with all the fragrant blossoms that come with spring, then from the sunless west out of the dark night you'll rise and appear as a great miracle to the gods and mortal men. Lacuna. And with what trick did the god who receives all deceive you? Persephone, most beautiful, answered her. I will tell you everything just as it truly happened, mother. When Hermes came to me, Hermes, the helper and swift messenger of the gods, when he came, beseeched by my father Zeus, son of Cronus, and by all other gods who live on Olympus, when he came to lead me out of Erebus so that you could see me with your own eyes, he came so that you would cease your wrath with the immortals and calm your terrible anger. So he came, and I jumped up for joy, but he, Hades, forced upon me a pomegranate seed, forced it upon me against my will so that I would eat it. And I did eat of that sweet fruit. And I'll also tell how he seized me according to the plan of my father, the son of Cronus, and brought me into the hollows of the earth. I'll tell you all this, everything you have asked. All of us were playing in a lush meadow, my friends and I, Leucippe and Phino, Electra and Ianthe, and I was playing with Melite and Iacche, Rhodia and Calero, Melibosis and Tyche, and also with Osiro, who is as beautiful as a flower herself. There were also Chrysis, Yanera, Acaste and Admete, Rhodope, Pluto and Calypso, who all men desire, and with us were Styx and Urania, lovely Galaxora and Pallas, who spurs on battles, and Artemis the archer. Thus we all played, all virgins and full-bloomed in youth. We gathered the blossoms of earth in our hands, flower gathering flower, bouquets of gentle crocus, iris and hyacinth, rosebuds and lilies, gorgeous to see. And there was a narcissus. The wide earth had brought it forth, glorious as a crocus, a jewel. And in ecstasy I spied it and plucked it. But the earth gave way beneath, and from her burst the great Lord Hades, who receives many. In his golden chariot he carried me beneath the earth, and I struggled all unwilling, screaming shrill a lament. Wretched though it makes me, I have told you the whole truth. Thus they were in harmony with each other, and for the whole day they comforted one another, and their embraces finally softened their grief, each receiving and giving joy. Then to them came Hecate, who wears a delicate veil, and she also caressed the daughter of holy Demeter, and from that time on, Lady Hecate was the servant and companion of Persephone. Zeus, the thunder god, sent a messenger to them, Rhea, whose hair grew in rich plaits as only a goddess's does, and she was sent to lead back Demeter, whose robes are purple dark, to the race of the gods. Then Zeus promised to give her whatever honors she wanted from the immortal gods, and he consented to the plan that the girl spend a third part of each spiraling year in the dark, where the sun goes down, but that 2/3 would be spent with her mother and the other immortals. That's what he said, and the goddess did not disobey Zeus's message. Swiftly she fled down from the peaks of Olympus and sped to the Rarian plain. Formerly this plain was the richest of fields that give life, but at this time it gave no life at all, lying waste, barren, and all leafless. And the white barley was hidden in the earth by Demeter's plan. But in a little while, as the springtime progressed, It would be waving long ears of grain like a mane in the wind, and its fertile furrows would be filled with grain lying at harvest, while other ears would be bound in sheaves. It was in that field that she alighted first out of the uncharted sky. When the goddesses saw each other, they embraced and rejoiced in their hearts. Then Rhea, who wore a delicate veil, said, 462-70, text damaged, reconstruction uncertain. Come, my child, Zeus, the thunder god, calls you to rejoin the race of the gods, and he promised whatever honors you might want from the other immortals. He agreed that your daughter spend a third part of each spiraling year in the dark where the sun goes down, and the other 2/3 with you and the other immortals. That's what he said was to be, and he nodded his head in assent. So come, child, and obey, and persist not in fighting with the stormy son of Cronus, but once again give the earth's fruit to mankind. That's what she said, and she was not disobeyed. For as soon as she had finished speaking, Demeter made fruits spring up from the rich plowlands, and the whole wide world became heavy with leaves and flowers. Then she went forth to the kings who administer justice, Triptolemus and Diocles, who drive horses, and the mighty Eumolpus and Celius, the leader of his people. To them she showed the performance of her rites and taught her mysteries. Holy rites that are awesome, that no one may transgress nor reveal nor express in words, for an overwhelming reverence for the gods stops his voice. Whoever among men who walk the earth has seen these mysteries is blessed, but whoever is uninitiated and has not received his share of the right, he will not have the same lot as the others, once he is dead and dwells in the mold where the sun goes down. And when the goddess among the goddesses had taught them everything, she went to Olympus to be in the company of other gods. There, the two goddesses live with Zeus, who delights in the thunderbolt, and they are holy and revered. Whomever the goddesses love among men who walk the earth, he is blessed, for they soon send Plutus into his great house to live at his own hearth, Plutus, who gives wealth to mortal men. But come now, you goddesses who preside over the town of Eleusis, where incense perfumes the air, you too who also have domains on Paros, which the sea surrounds, and in mountainous Antron, you, Lady Dio, who bring in the seasons and gives us splendid gifts, you and your beautiful daughter Persephone, come now grant me an easy life for my song. And still again may I pray to sing you a song. Translation by Danny Staples.